This is a 2000 Nissan Pathfinder that has a broken sway bar link. Right, it's broken away from up here. The bottom part is attached to the sway bar of the link. The bottom part of the link is attached to the sway bar, and the top part to the strut assembly up here. And it's broken away from the strut assembly side. And the sway bar itself comes out from one side of the car, runs along, it's through some bushings and a bracket, all the way over to the other side and connects. And there's a link on the other side also. So we're going to replace this. You can see right here that this nut is very rusted. Now, if you don't have air tool, what you will need to do is get a wrench, Allen wrench. This wrench is so old, there's no markings on it anymore. I believe it's a 6mm Allen. Lock it in there and put a box wrench on here, on the nut, and turn it to loosen it. You'll hold this and then turn the wrench to loosen it. The way it's rusted right now, I know it's best to use heat. If you don't have oxygen acetylene tank, just get a propane torch and heat up the nut, right? Since it's attached to the strut assembly, try not, make it your business not to heat up the strut housing. All right, so you heat that up and turn this counterclockwise as you turn the Allen clockwise, or you can just hold the Allen and turn the nut counterclockwise to loosen it up. Once you get that off, you have to attack the bottom the same way. Okay, I'm going to use air tools on the top but wrench on the bottom because you can't get a socket in here properly to do it. But before you do all of that, get yourself some blast or whatever form of rust buster you use. I use WD-40, spray it down, and if you can't get it loose, then apply heat to the nut and you should be able to loosen it up that way. With your flame adjusted as small as you can, I'm using an oxyacetylene torch. Direct your heat away from the strut. So I'm putting it this way instead of this way, okay, to heat up the nut. Once that nut is heated up, you can put your wrench on the nut and the Allen in that hole that I described earlier and work it loose. But I'm going to use the impact gun with a 17 socket. And on the back, since the sway bar, since the ball is broken out of here, I'm going to lock a vice grip on that ball back there and then hit it with the air gun. Over here is the ball that fits into the socket in the upper part of the sway bar link. So this is a ball. This is called a ball and socket connection. So that ball is going to move around like this in the socket as you bounce or hit bumps and stuff. It moves up and down like that. And when you get old, they can break out of that. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. Heat that up, and this one I'll have to do by hand with a wrench. Okay, I'm going to heat this bottom nut up. Don't heat the screw thread. Heat the nut, because what happens is if you're heating a nut or a washer, they expand. Anything you heat up is going to expand. And that means the hole in the nut is going to expand. And that's what helps loosen up things when you heat them up. Because the hole expands, releases off the bolt that goes through the nut, and it's easier to turn. Okay, so I'm gonna heat this up red hot. I'm not worried about the strut because nothing is in the way. The boot might catch on fire, but don't worry about that. Once that is heated up red hot, you turn your heat off. Get your wrench. I have a ratchet wrench, 1719 ratchet wrench. So I'm gonna put the 17 side on the nut, put the Allen in this hole, And now I can begin to loosen this. It's very easy once you heat it up. Don't make a mistake and touch this because you're going to burn yourself. See, I'm working both hands in opposite direction. That make it come off a little faster. Right now it's nice and loose. I can remove my tool and maybe get a short socket, put it on there and turn it. But I'm not going to put my hand on that right now. Or you can just spray that down with a little water or wet it with a wet rag and it will come off easily. Okay, I have a wet shop towel. You can hear that, it's still hot. All right, I'm trying to do this fast because I have to, it's the end of the day, trying to get out of here. And off comes your sway bar link. You have the new one here in the box. Take it out of the bag. These, the aftermarket ones come with little grease fittings that go in these holes here on the ends. So I'm going to insert the grease fittings, tighten them down, and pump a little grease in there. If you have a grease gun, pump a little grease in there. These might already be lubed, but I don't take that chance. You can see when you're new, they're really tight and hard to turn. Okay, and that's how this should be. This should not be as loose as this. You just take these here, screw them in. Screws one in this end, hand tight. The other one in this end. And then I'll put a wrench on here and just snug it down. This fitting here, the nut side is a it's a 10 millimeter. So I got a 10 millimeter combination wrench, use the open end side of it and just snug this down. You don't need, you don't need to go crazy on tightening these. You will strip it. Okay? Tighten both ends down. Then you get your grease gun, right, and pump some grease into this end and into this. All right. Once that's pumped in, you're just pumping enough until you see this boot right here. It's going to fill up. It's going to start puffing out. Right? Then you know you have enough. If you put too much in, it's going to come out the sides of it. These come with new nuts. So now all you have to do is connect these. And these are locking nuts. All right, so when you tighten them up, you don't have to worry, they're not going to come off. Line the top one out. You have to play with this a little bit because the sway bar is under tension from the other side. So what I'm going to do, I'll put something underneath the sway bar on here and pry it up against this lower control arm. And once I pry that up, this will slide right through the hole. Okay, I always keep a piece of pipe around. Okay, they come in handy. If not, if you got a chunk of wood long enough, you can stick it right in between here. Okay, and under the sway bar and up there against the lower control arm. Now, if you look over here, you can see as I move this pipe, you can see this sway bar moving, right? There you go. It's in there. Pull my pipe out and put this nut on. See the nut? This here locks it on. The washer part of the nut help keep it on and prevent it loosening back up. Now you can tighten these down. Same way you took them off, flip your ratchet wrench around, or if you have a regular box end or open end 17. This here, this the on side and the off side. So putting it on, the on side where it says on is facing me, and I should be able to put it in here, but I can't use it in here because of the flange. I can use it on the bottom. So I'm going to use a socket up top and this on the bottom. Okay. Okay, the new one happens to be a different size nut, and that's why I don't care too much for aftermarket stuff, because why don't you mimic the original? If you're going to make it for a car and the car came with 17, make the nut a 17 nut. Don't put a 19 on it and change the thing. So now somebody who used to working on these things every day, like I used to work on VWs every day, and whatever job I had to do, I knew exactly what tool to get without going to the job first and looking at the nuts and say, okay, that's a 17, that's a 19. All right, so the bottom one is not, I snugged it up. And the top one, I'm just gonna hit it with the air. That's the quickest way for me. For you, you can get your wrench and the Allen again and work in reverse. Turn it the opposite way. Okay, I'm gonna hit this with the 19 socket impact. All right, and that's tight. Now, I don't use torque wrench too much unless I'm doing some technical work like rebuilding an engine or something of that nature, because everything has to be torqued specifically to a certain torque. Now, they even have torque for you putting your tires on. If you're gonna put your tires on and torque them down, as a car owner, then you need a torque wrench. But the fact that if just threw in a regular socket or however to give whatever the provider with you with your vehicle to change your tire, that tells me it's important that you tighten it down, but it is not that important how tight you get it. Now, my guns, if you hear, when you hear me working, you hear a lot of air leaking and stuff like that. A lot of my stuff is very old. You know I can tighten that up, but I need to take the time out and do it because it's annoying to me to hear air leaking out of the hoses, the connections when I'm working. But tightening the wheel, tightening the axle nut, I've been doing these things so long that I have a feel for how much torque to put on my gun to tighten these down. The guns have different settings. You know, I know my air compressor, I know my gun. If you put a new gun in my hand and I don't know it, then I'll worry about how tight it is. But this CP gun I've been using, this thing is over 10 years old. You know, I know this gun. Tightening the bottom one, we go through the same procedure. Have the Allen. I have not checked to see what size this is, but it appears to be smaller than a 6mm. So now I have to go and look for the correct size to put in there. But find the right size and then tighten this down. It doesn't seem like I need to use the Allen on this, because when I tighten this, it seems to be tightening right up without slipping. All right, so now put a good pull on this. I don't care how much I tighten this. I'm not going to break this using this tool. I'm not going to strip the thread either. I'm just making sure I get it tight enough. Okay. I've had guys work for me in the past that everything to tighten up, loosen up down the road. And guys, everything to tighten up, they break it while they tighten it. I guess it comes with the feel. And that's why torque wrench is important, but most of you guys are not going to go out and buy a torque wrench to work in your car. The job is not complete. The sway bar link is in, and you can put the tire back on, let your vehicle down, and you should be good to go. Unless you want to do the other side because this side broke and you want to be safe and say, okay, let me do the other side. It's an inexpensive job and it's not very time consuming. So for this cost me $16. I'm a shop. It might cost you $20, or you might go online and find it for the same price I pay or even less. All right, to get this done. So it's worth your safety to do the other side if you feel it is necessary, if you feel like you want to spend that time and money.